My fiance, 33 male, has a guy best friend that he's known for 16 years. Unfortunately, he has cancer and it's terminal. My fiance wanted to take him on vacation for a couple of days and begged me to fund it. I refused, although I felt incredibly guilty after he made me feel bad about it for days. Eventually, he was able to borrow money to go on vacation. They went and spent 2 days at a sports city. When it was time to return, he called me, asking me to pay for their plane tickets to get home. I was taken aback. I asked why I should pay, and he said that they ran out of money and didn't put any aside to get home. I refused and told him it wasn't my problem that he didn't save money for the return flight. He started arguing with me, saying I can't let them be stranded in another city when I had the means to help, especially after I refused to help fund the vacation. I said no and that he needed to deal with it alone. He didn't stop texting me, trying to get me to pay. He and his friends had to return by road eventually, and it took them 8+ hours. He came home and blew up, saying I left them stranded in another city and refused to help, even though I had money to pay for their plane tickets. He said that by forcing them to travel by road, I had caused his friend unnecessary exhaustion and turmoil. He called me every name under the sun and said I had no empathy for his friend and that I'd tainted the memories of this vacation. Am I the idiot? He's still mad at me and says he's shocked by how I behaved in this situation and my lack of empathy. Edit. My fiance is unemployed, so we couldn't afford the vacation, although it wasn't expensive. I'm the one working. Money's tight. And yes, paying for the ticket would have strapped me financially since I'm paying for everything. Who leaves for a 2-day trip without funds or plans for the return? Oh, right. The plan was to manipulate you into paying. He thought he had it covered. Not the idiot. You're not the Make-A-Wish Foundation. If your soon-to-be husband wants to help his friend enjoy his time left, then he needs to fund it. And if he can't, then he needs to find things to do that he can afford. It's not your problem or your friend. Geez, take the friend to lunch, a walk, a museum, anything less expensive and more meaningful. Your fiancé wanted to do a nice thing for his friend, but it's crazy that he wanted you to fund their trip. I'm on your side 100%. Your partner spending all of his funds because you have the means is a red flag and is more likely to show up again at some point in your relationship. It's always easier to make plans with someone else's money. OP, you can't seriously still be planning to marry this guy. Please don't expect him to change when you marry him though, because he won't. Do you really want to marry someone this irresponsible? You'll constantly get blamed for every problem that he's created. You will always be the responsible one while he does whatever. Do you want to have that role for the rest of your life? I don't think he was being irresponsible. He spent all the money on purpose, banking an OP to pay for the flights home. It comes across as irresponsible, but I think it was so manipulative and a bigger marinara flag than irresponsibility. The guilt trip after doesn't help his case either. OP didn't ruin the vacation. Fiance's just being a real idiot here on every level. He tried taking advantage of you. Then he got mad when he couldn't take advantage of you the second time and is blaming you for it. And now he's shocked. And now that he's home, he's blowing up on you, saying you're the one with no empathy. It sounds like he knows you're feeling guilty and is using that to his advantage to get you to empathize with the controlling and manipulative behavior. He planned this, OP, and eventually you will learn that this guy doesn't care about you or how he treats you. My girlfriend has a friend, Kiera, who became very obsessed with how much a guy makes after her last relationship. Her ex mooched off of her, and because of that, she now generalizes every man with a low income. A few weeks ago, we had a party at our place. Kiera and my friend Theo were invited too. They didn't know each other previously and hit it off great. They spent the entire party talking to each other before Theo had to leave early. Kiera came to me after Theo left and asked me a few questions about him, like how he is with women, whether he's reliable, honest, etc. It was clear that she was really into him. She also asked me about his job, and I decided to lie and told her a random low-income job instead of his actual career. I was honestly curious if she still held onto her prejudices, even if she really liked the guy, And I also didn't want my friend Theo to be with a woman that shallow. Well, it turns out I was right about Kiara. Theo came to me a few days later, asking me if Kiara said anything about him because they had such a great time at the party. But when he messaged her afterward, she didn't really seem interested. So I told Theo that's because of what I told Kiara and that he dodged a bullet. Theo flipped out at me and accused me of trying to sabotage him. I tried to explain to him that it was for his benefit, but he didn't listen. My girlfriend told me that since then, Theo and Kiara have gone on multiple dates, and it's going really well between them. I tried to contact Theo, but he called me an idiot and refused to attend our weekly soccer games. Even my girlfriend says that I was in the wrong, and that's what I get for lying and trying to stop love from happening. Am I the idiot? You are the idiot. She's been burned before and doesn't want to be in that position again where someone mooches off of her. That's a fair point. Theo has the right to be annoyed because you purposely made up a lie about him that you knew would make him less attractive to the girl he liked. That's a poor move as a friend. He doesn't need you to test potential girlfriends for him. He can figure out if they're compatible without your help. She was leeched off of, and now she wants someone who won't. Gasp! The horror! She's an evil gold digger. Who put you in charge of his dating life? You have no right to mess with people's relationships. It doesn't matter how good your intentions might have been. You lied where you had no business lying. You had no right to test her. You were not looking out for your friend. You were being petty because you think her dating preferences are shallow. These are presumably grown people. They're not required to behave the way you feel they should. Theo is right to cut you out of his life. No one wants an overbearing idiot causing discord in their life, all the while pretending to be trying to help him. Seriously, leave these people alone and be grateful if they ever bother to speak to you again. My mom is a major witch to my cousin, which is sad because my cousin, Jack, is literally only a preschooler. I don't know why. Jack is the cutest kid, and yes, he's a bit hyper, and yes, he talks a lot, but it just does not explain anything. Of course, she does all this behind my aunt and uncle's back, but they're starting to suspect something since we don't see them anymore, unless the entire family is over. I've warned my mom repeatedly that this will bite her in the butt, but she insists that she's just lovingly teasing him. Well, it was my grandma's birthday, and the whole family was there. Jack was playing with the other kids, and he was pretending to be Robin, and another kid was pretending to be some villain. My mom suddenly says, "You guys should switch roles. I think the bad guy suits you more than Robin. Robin's strong, good, and handsome. But you..." Jack cuts her off, immediately sits down, and starts sobbing his eyes out. I was horrified. I began comforting him, and so did the kids that were playing with him. But he was inconsolable, and his parents ran over. They asked me what had happened, and I looked my mom straight in the eye. She begged me not to say anything, but I told them everything. They lost it. My aunt was crying, and my uncle screamed at her for so long a crowd formed. Not even my dad dared to step in after he realized what had happened. My grandma kicked her out, and now the entire family isn't speaking to her. They said some really mean things about my mom, which no doubt probably broke her, and no one deserves to hear, but I just don't know. My mom's been crying for ages and told me I betrayed her and caused all of this. She said that she hates me right now, and that every time she sees me, she remembers how I betrayed her and how little I care about her. It honestly hurts me to see my mom like this, but it's also deserved. The things she's saying to me are making me feel insanely guilty, though. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot for telling the truth. You didn't betray her. Were you supposed to keep her little secret? You don't want to start down that road with her. You did the right thing. They wanted to know why Jack was crying, and you told the truth. Do not start covering up for her. That will not end. Just to recap, she's mad at you because you were asked a question and answered honestly? Who the heck bullies a preschooler? Who the heck reverse blames their own child when the consequences of her actions finally reach her? Your mother is a lot of things, but an idiot is the only one I'm allowed to call her here. Don't let her pawn the guilt off on you. It's a result of her own actions. As someone with a toxic and manipulative parent who always plays the victim, I can tell you that your mother is the only person at fault. This isn't the first time your mom has been the idiot, which is why your family was so quick to react the way they did. Don't let her gaslight you into believing you share any of the blame. It's all on her. Good on you for looking out for Jack. I'm sorry your mother said such awful things to you. My female 28, husband's male 31, best friend, female 26, got the news of her dog's cancer days ago. My husband would call her every day till yesterday when she visited. I opened the door for her, greeted her, then led her to the living room and went into the kitchen to get a glass of water after my husband asked me. I came back and didn't find them in the living room. It turns out they went into the guest room and shut the door. I heard weeping and sobbing sounds coming from the inside. I knocked and then got in and found them embracing each other, crying. I stood by the door, but my husband paused and told me to give them a moment. I got to say that I didn't feel comfortable with his request, so I remained standing. He got up and started repeatedly telling me to get out. I told him it was my house and he couldn't tell me where I could and could not stay. He got angry and told me to get out and we'll talk later, but I refused. He asked what was wrong with me for not seeing how tense the situation was and for not giving them privacy. I told him they didn't need to shut the door for any reason, no matter what. We argued and she ended up leaving. He blew up at me afterward, calling me unbelievable and saying I had no respect for him and his friend, who was going through a hard time and refusing to give them privacy. I told him how weird it was for them to shut the door just because they were crying. He told me that I was petty and overbearing to act like this in front of her, and I stopped him from showing her proper support. Now he's completely gone radio silent and is acting like I kicked her out or treated her poorly. Edit. She's been his best friend/sister for over 8+ years. We don't get along because she needs to be a boundary stomper and does and says things that make me feel like I don't know my husband as much as she does. She compares us as well. Initially, I didn't want her to come to the house, but my husband called her and told her to come since he didn't see her after the news was received till yesterday. You are the idiot. You did treat her poorly. The only reason you acted this way is that she's female and you were insecure. You knew her dog had cancer. You heard her crying. She's in distress and grief. They weren't embracing. Your husband was consoling her. You then made this moment uncomfortable and about you. I'm assuming that you're generally jealous and insecure around this woman for no reason other than her gender, which is why they were away from you in the first place. Supporting a friend is fine. He did that every day when he called her. That friend boundary got demolished when she showed up at your house, wanting to cry in his arms in private, so they could have that intimate private moment of him consoling her as she wept in his arms. That is more than him being her friend supporting her. He could have done that in the living room, and you could have been involved in that support if she was just a friend and he was just a friend supporting her. Supporting a friend and consoling them doesn't require privacy or intimacy. OP's not the idiot at all. No matter how sad I was, I would not go to my friend's house and cry on his shoulder in a private room while shutting his wife out. I don't think you were wrong for feeling weird, OP. Your husband can continue to be a good friend, but it doesn't have to be at your expense. If I were put in this position, being his wife, I would also be uncomfortable with this. It sounds like the girl is possessive of him almost. I would talk with your husband and tell him where you felt uncomfortable and why. If he doesn't respect that or tries to defend her, that tells you he likes that relationship better than the marriage. For context, I'll say mom and stepmom. I've always called my stepmom mom in real life, and I consider her my mom. My mom had a very complicated pregnancy with me, and an undiagnosed heart condition led to her death within minutes of my delivery. The loss of my mom rocked my dad, and my mom's family was a great comfort to him during that time. They were also very good to me. He always made sure they had a solid place in my life. He met my stepmom when I was 2 and married her when I was 5, although she was in the role of my parent a long time before that. I called my stepmom mom from day one. I do consider myself to have 2 moms. It's unfair that I never got to know my mom. My extended family on that side has always been amazing, and I adore every one of them. The problem is my stepmom has always been sort of jealous of them. I always picked up on it, but I can see where it all comes from as I've gotten older. She is jealous that she's not my only mom, that my mom is still important to me, and that I have family that connects me to a person that I love and respect as much as my living parents, despite having never known her. I can think of a moment when a lot of it started to click. It was my 13th birthday, and my mom and dad's family were over to celebrate my birthday. My mom's family gave me a necklace that belonged to my mom as a present. Apparently, she had given it to her mom when she started to realize how bad things were going with her pregnancy, and since she had given it to my mom when she was younger, she wanted her to be the one to give it to me. My dad was so happy and took photos of me wearing it, but I remember my stepmom looking so close to tears the whole day after the present was given. When my dad commented that I looked so much like my mom in her first photo with it, I noticed she reacted. I've tried to reassure her, and I've continued to love her throughout this. Now I'm getting married, and this is where I wonder about how I'm dealing with this. I always wear my mom's necklace now and plan to for my wedding. My dad gave my fiance my mom's ring to propose with. He also gave me a small flower pin she wore to her wedding. So I asked my stepmom if I could have some stuff of hers to wear, and she was so excited and eager until she learned that I was also going to wear stuff representing my mom. She told me she didn't think it was fair to wear stuff from the both of us. Then she asked me why she wasn't enough and what she had done wrong. I told her I wanted to represent both my moms. She told me she'll always just be mom number 2, always the second best, and always reminded that she's not my real mom. She told me I could have given her this one day. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Could have given her this one day? No, it's your wedding. It's your day. It doesn't sound like you've ever treated your stepmom as second best. You see her as your mother. She raised you. You also even see your biological mother as your mother. She birthed you and intended to raise you. You are loved by both, and you have a love for both. Wanting to wear something representing 2 of the most influential women on your wedding day is beautiful. It's not a competition. She needs to talk to a professional. She's jealous of a dead woman, and that's very sad. Agreed. Your stepmom just has her own issues. If she insists on being upset at you for being completely reasonable and reassuring, that's entirely her issue. She needs to talk to a therapist about her sense of rejection without real rejection. You can be kind, supportive, and thoughtful in how you talk to her about it, but ultimately it is her issue, not yours. I suspect this is a lot more about your dad than you. Your mom died, so she's faultless. She could never be an imperfect parent, snappy partner, or have a big fight with you and your dad. So I'm willing to bet your dad lionized her to his wife. Your stepmom has borne the burden of being real and thus imperfect. Your stepmom needs some therapy, probably couples therapy.